Thomas Jefferson is buried with other members of his family at Monticello in this burial ground, which was chosen by himself in 1773. First laid out on the occasion of his death, or on the death of his closest friend and brother-in-law, Dabney Carr, this plot is still owned by an association of Jefferson's descendants, and is still being used as a burial place.
So these people didn't know that look at their faces here. They'd never been to them before they decided, they didn't really know these people.
Jefferson characteristically left precise instructions as to what should be inscribed on his tombstone. You see some of it here, but in spite of his wishes, the dates of his death and birth were added to the tombstone, which is a replacement for a smaller obelisk that originally marked Jefferson's grave. His birth date is given old style because he was born before the calendar reform of 1751.
After the predecessor has been buried there. And the ashes are usually moved to the back and then the person.
On the side of Jefferson's obelisk, you can just barely make out the grave of Maria Jefferson Eppes. Mary, or Maria Jefferson Eppes, called Polly as a child, was Jefferson's second daughter. By all accounts, she had exquisite beauty. Abigail Adams remarked that she was the favorite of every creature in her house. After her mother's death, Mary and her younger sister Lucy lived with their aunt Elizabeth Ways Eppes and their husband Francis Eppes at Eppington in Southside, Virginia. While Jefferson was in France, Lucy and a cousin died of whooping cough, but Polly got early over it. In spite of the emotional difficulty it posed, Jefferson determined that 9-year-old Polly would join him in Paris. Like her sister, she attended the Abbé de Penthamont, studying French, music, and drawing, but she was never inclined towards her studies. At Monticello in 1797, Maria married her childhood friend, John Wales Eppes, who later served in Congress. Mrs. Eppes gave birth to 3 children, dying after complications of childbirth. Only her son Francis lived beyond infancy. At the front of Jefferson's obelisk, you can see Martha Jefferson Randolph's grave. Jefferson's oldest daughter, she was born in Monticello on September 27, 1972. 10 years old at her mother's death, she shared her father's grief and established an affectionate bond lasting throughout their lives. After her father's retirement from public service, Mrs. Randolph and her large family lived at Monticello, where she managed the household activities. Young Martha accompanied her father to Paris in 1784 and was enrolled at a convent school. There she continued her study of agriculture, literature, drawing, and music. She later lamented that she was ill-prepared for household management. Ms. Randolph died in Charlottesville in 1836, giving birth to 12 children, 11 of whom lived to adulthood. Okay guys, I just trudged up the quarter mile from the cemetery so I could come and show you this gravesite here. This man, Mr. Levy, or Admiral Levy, was probably the most important man to Monticello after Thomas Jefferson. So Monticello's survival is the result of a pioneering preservation effort by Uriah Philip Levy, whose grave you see here, as well as his nephew Jefferson Monroe Levy. Born in Philadelphia, Uriah was the third of 14 children of Rachel and Michael Levy. Jews of Portuguese descent. At the age of 10, Uriah ran away to sea, later enlisting in the United States Navy, where he fought against flogging and defended religious freedom. Levy was an ardent admirer of Jefferson. He commissioned the first public portrait of his hero in 1832. Levy purchased Monticello for $2,700 in 1834, and he dedicated himself to the protection of Monticello, writing that the houses of great men should be preserved for monuments to their glory. His mother, Rachel Phillips Levy, was buried along Mulberry Row here, where we are walking right now. Levy died in 1862. He bequeathed Monticello to the federal government, but the government relinquished its claim. Levy's heirs contested his will, and a lengthy litigation ensued. Uriah's nephew, Jefferson Monroe Levy, later a congressman from New York, purchased Monticello in 1879. Monticello's condition was badly deteriorated by then, and Jefferson Monroe Levy committed himself to its restoration. He owned Monticello until it was acquired in 1923 by the newly formed Thomas Jefferson Memorial Foundation.